The automation I get asked for over and over and over again is a LinkedIn agent. I've grown my AI agency to over $10,000 a month, and I've sold my automation workflows to thousands of customers. And today we're going to build a simple AI agent that is one of the most common requests that I get from clients. And this AI agent basically has two jobs. One is to take a topic and research that topic for any current events or trending news stories. And two, its job is to write a high converting LinkedIn post in the author's personal tone of voice. Now, this is super, super important, that last part, the author's personal tone of voice. And the challenge with LinkedIn is you find that all of the content starts to sound the same. And this is actually one of the most common requests I get from clients is how do I get these posts to sound like me? So today I'm going to show you how to build this AI agent. It's this here in the center. I'm also going to show you how you can create your own tone of voice guidelines if you've already been posting on LinkedIn. I'm just going to go ahead and run this end to end. The first thing you do is you come into the set topics node. So you just set the topic. NVIDIA announced a staggering $100 billion investment into OpenAI, which is crazy. So I'm going to click execute workflow. It's getting our topic. After that, it's calling Perplexity to perform the research for us. Then it's going back here to identify what we want it to do next. And then it's going to pass the research and the topic over here to the Anthropic tool to actually have Claude write our LinkedIn post for us. This is why agents are powerful, because they can make actions and they can make choices for us without us having to do anything. And then from there, it's basically just grabbing that prompt, it's figuring out what we want to do with it, and it's passing this all over to Google Sheets. And if I come over into here and I come over into new posts, you can see here, I'm sitting in a client call and my friend said 100 billion. That's insane. I almost cried laughing. Turns out NVIDIA isn't just selling chips, they're leasing them to OpenAI to power massive data centers. OpenAI pays NVIDIA in cash, creating a circular money loop. So this is like a really cool, interesting story, right? It has this nice LinkedIn style format, short sentences, lots of line breaks, and you can go ahead and you can make edits to this however you want. You can copy and paste this directly over to LinkedIn. You can even set up a separate automation to go through and post automatically for you, but I just wanted to show you today how this AI agent is working. So I'm going to zoom in here and you can see there are actually two parts to this automation. So let me show you how this works. The first thing that we're going to do here is we're actually just going to get all of my posts from LinkedIn. We're going to create the tone of voice guidelines, and then I'm going to show you how to build this AI agent. It's really, really simple. We're just going to set the topic in here that the agent uses. We're going to create a system prompt for the AI agent. I'm going to show you exactly how to set up all of these tools, and I'm going to show you just how to store this in Google Sheet a little bit later. This first part here is super, super simple. All this is doing is getting the author's posts, and the reason for this is we're actually going to take their highest converting posts. In my case, we'll just use me for this example. We're going to use the highest converting post to create the tone of voice guidelines. So we actually can take what's already working to write new posts for that. And then the second one, this is the AI agent. And we're going to be using what's called Open Router. This gives you access to all of the LLMs. So before, what I was doing is I was using ChatGPT as the brain for the agent. I was doing research with Perplexity and I was writing this with Claude. And this is great because I'm really comfortable setting up API keys and having billing in multiple places. But for you, that might be a little more difficult. But what's really cool is there's this great tool called Open Router, which actually gives you access to every single LLM. So I'm going to show you how you can set this up, not just to use this as the brains for your AI agent, but to actually set up these requests to use this as the actual tool. So again, we're still calling Perplexity for the research and we're still calling Claude to do the actual writing, because I find that Perplexity does great research and Claude does great writing. And then OpenAI or ChatGPT with its latest 4.1 mini is really fast and really cheap to run as the brains for your AI agent. And so we really want to be able to get the best quality output with the least amount of resistance or friction up front. So the first thing that we're doing is I actually just did this manually, right? Or a little bit manually, a little bit automated. It was actually kind of a mix. You can do this whole process inside of N8N, but there is a great website called Apify, and Apify is a site that basically has tons and tons of scrapers. If you go to the store, you can see we can scrape TikTok, we can scrape Google Maps, you can scrape Twitter, basically anything you want, right? So I was just using this for my LinkedIn post. What's cool about this is you can automate all of this inside of N8N, but you don't have to. You can actually just do this manually. So there's this LinkedIn profile post scraper that I've been using. I'll leave a link in the description where you can get access to this. Apify is also great because it gives you $5 of free credits every single month to use. So I can actually run this totally for free today. And so I'm just going to run this manually at first. And you can see here, all I've done is I've just put in my username from my LinkedIn account. You can do this for you. You can do this from someone else. This is my LinkedIn account. account. This is my personal profile right here. And basically I just went ahead and I just copied this from the URL. This is my profile link. I pasted this in here, and that's really all you need. And I'm just going to go ahead and click save and start. So what this is doing again is this is scraping the top 100 or the most recent 100 posts from me. I don't even know if I've had 100 posts, to be honest with you, but it's going to get all of those. And then we're going to see which ones have performed the best. And we're going to use those to create our tone of voice guidelines. So every post we write in the future will sound like me. It'll be formatted the way I like to format it, etc., etc. And so you can see here, we have all of this data that's returned, right? And it's actually like so much information that we don't need. Here's the actual post's text, which is like probably the most important thing, right? And then we also can come in here, and if we go into the JSON view, you can actually see this a little more cleanly. You can see here's the post text. You can see the author's name. We can go ahead, we can see the total reactions to the post, the likes, the comments, all of these things. I have 413 comments, been doing a lot of lead magnet posts personally. These have been working great to blow up my LinkedIn account. I'm super happy about that. So from here, what I just want to do is I just want to store this inside of Google Sheets in just kind of like a nicer format. And so what I did is I just want to like strip out all of the stuff I don't need, right? And the easiest way to do this was actually just to run a simple little automation. So the only thing that you actually need is if you come into storage here, we just need this data set ID. And I'm just going to click this to copy this. And now if I come back in here and let me just execute this, this is called a manual trigger. If you want to start off any workflow, you just want to set up a manual trigger, and you can just click the plus and type in manual, and you get this nice little arrow, and then basically you click execute workflow, and everything after that will run. So here we've just set up an Apify node, and we can go ahead and let me just do this from scratch so you can see. Is what we would do here is you click the plus and you type in Apify. So now we have Apify, and we've already actually run this actor. So like I said, you could do this all just in one go inside of N8N. I just did it manually just to show you. So all we need now is to actually get the data set items. And the data set ID we just copied. We do know that we want to return 100, and that's it. That's basically all we need. This is super cool. And then from here, we're just appending this or kind of inserting this inside of our Google Sheets. If you don't know how to connect Google Sheets to N8N, I will leave a video up here where I show you how to connect all of your Google Drive applications to N8N in like 5 minutes. So from here, we've just connected this to our Google Sheets credentials. We're choosing our little LinkedIn research Google Sheet right here that I have. And you can see I just pulled out the fields that mattered to me: the post text, the URL, all the reactions, the comments, the reposts, and then just any links to media, like in case we want to see, did this post perform well because it had a great image, or did it perform well because like it had a great copy, right? So we just have that all set up here, and I'm just going to link this back up here. And all we did here is we just mapped these columns. So we just brought in the post text, the URL, the reacts, the comments. So let me just run this through really quick. You can see this should only take a couple seconds because we basically already ran the actor. And we can see here that if this is coming in, now you can see that we're bringing in the post text. And the way to do this is you would just come in here and you drag the text in here. We drag the URL. We drag the URL in here. Then you have to come down here and you find the total reactions, the likes, the comments, the reposts, and you just drag these in here as well, right? And in this case, the very first post actually doesn't have any media attached to it, so it just didn't bring anything in here. And that's fine. And so if we come into Google Sheets, we can see that all of these posts have now populated, which is really, really great. We have the text, the URL, all of the reactions, the comments, the reposts, and any of the media links or things like that. Like this is a recent post that I made, right? Posting manually is killing your growth in 2025. So this is super cool, really helpful. And one thing we can do now is if I want, I can just go ahead and I can organize this by sort Z to A by the most reactions. So I can actually see which of my posts have performed the best. Now this one I know is like very specific. Somebody reposted this, so I know this one did well. So maybe I'll skip this. But you can see from here, like all these other posts have actually performed really well for me. So what I want to do is I want to take what's working about these and I want to create tone of voice guidelines so I can mimic this style. So I'm going to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to use my friend ChatGPT to help me do this. Two, I already have a structure that I kind of like. And so I was using this for a client of mine. And if I come into this AI agent here, we can come into the system prompt. This is the LinkedIn post generator agent, right? You are an expert LinkedIn copywriter who creates high performing posts by first conducting thorough research, then crafting content in the voice of a successful entrepreneur/teacher. Then it has a two-step process. The first is the research phase. So we're using Perplexity to do research. And then the second is the content phase, right? And so what I want to do is I want to keep a lot of the structure of this because I found that this is really, really helpful. We have some writing style requirements, but we kind of want to update this for me. We have some different voice elements and things like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy from number 3, and let's just go down to like 23. We'll do the top 20 performing posts. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to come into ChatGPT. I'm going to say, I need your help creating an AI agent prompt for a LinkedIn copywriter. I'm going to give you my top 20 performing LinkedIn posts, and I'm also going to give you my current AI agent prompt that is working great. All I want to update is the tone of voice guidelines. So it's more, my spelling has gotten like really bad now that I've been using these LLMs because it usually just figures it out, but that's okay. Update the tone of voice guidelines so it's more in line with my writing style. So I'm gonna say top 20 posts, and I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna paste all of these in here, which is great. It's a ton of posts, but ChatGPT has a great super long context window. I'm gonna say my current AI agent prompt, and I'm gonna go back into N8N. I'm gonna copy this, and I will paste this in here. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description where you can sign up for my AI community to get access to the workflow that we built today, along with a whole bunch of other resources where you can learn to build and sell AI automations. So this is cool. You can see we've just updated this post. And so basically the process hasn't changed, right? This is great. I loved the process, which was basically like use Perplexity to research the topic, find latest trends, contrarian and surprising insights, successes or failures, conventional wisdom, et cetera, right? The critical constraints to like how long this should be and the structure is really the same because I liked the structure where you have like short sentences, lots of line breaks. You see this on LinkedIn all the time. But what has changed is the post structure, right? We have results or metrics or personal scenes, some intros, some changes in the body. Here's some difference in style requirements like sentence patterns or things like that. And then a little bit of changes to the tone of voice. So this is really great. And we basically have changes to the content themes as well, right? So basically we've just changed this from like a client's tone of voice to my tone of voice, keeping the same format, which is basically what we were looking for. So I'm going to come in here, going to copy this. I'll come back into my AI agent, and I'm just going to paste this in here. So now that we basically have created our tone of voice guidelines, let's go ahead and let's build out this AI agent. I love automations like this because they're fairly simple and you can actually sell them for a lot of money. So I'm going to move this trigger down here, and I'm going to connect this up, and I'm just going to rename this to set topic. And what we're doing here is we're actually just setting the topic that we want to perform research, right? So what I did is I just went over to Perplexity and I typed in top AI news today, right? What do I want to talk about today? What's trendy? What's the top news, right? Well, obviously, NVIDIA announced a staggering $100 billion investment into OpenAI, et cetera. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this very first thing here, and I'm just going to paste this in here as our topic. Cool. So we have a topic set. And then from there, to get access to the AI agent, you would just come in here and you can type in AI agent, and this is all it is, right? And this connects up right here. Inside the AI agent, there are two prompts. There is the user message and there is the system message. And so the system message is how you want this to behave. When you first create an AI agent, you're actually not going to see the system message. So let me just go ahead and show you. We go AI agent, we'll attach this up. You're going to change the source for the prompt here to define below. And right here, we have the user message. But what you can do here is you can add an option and you can add a system message. So now you have the system message, which is basically how you want the system to behave. And then the user message is basically your prompt. This is like your ChatGPT chat box, right? This is as if you're typing like, hey, ChatGPT, do this thing for me, right? So this is the same. So we have this set up, and the agent works in an interesting way. Basically, you have the chat model, which you connect down here to this little thing that says chat model. And this is the brains of your AI agent. And then the AI agent's job is to call different tools. And that's why agents are so powerful, because they understand which actions to take and in what order. So this is why they're really powerful, because they can perform multiple tasks using a single node, right? It can basically do the research and then write the post, right? All from one single place. And that's why it's so super cool. So we already basically looked at the system message, right? I literally just copied and pasted this in here. This is the two-step process. So, and I found that actually helps to go first. We do this, we do the research, and then do step 2, right? Just to make sure that it's first doing the research and then doing the writing. Because what I found that when I didn't do that, it was actually calling both of these tools at the same time. But I didn't want that because I wanted to make sure we actually passed the research that we were doing to the copywriter. So it actually had all the research to write with. So from there, all we're doing is, and let me go ahead and click execute previous nodes so we have it. Cool. So we basically just have topic, and all I'm doing here is I'm just passing in the topic that we set earlier. I'm just dragging this over, and you can see here that we have NVIDIA announced a staggering $100 billion investment. We're just bringing that over. And then I just put in like a little bit about the author, right? So that if it's trying to pull in like personal story or personal anecdote, it has some information about me. And I literally just went to my LinkedIn profile. I went down to my about section and I just copied and pasted this in. I hard coded this in. If you were really working with the client, you would probably leave this like in a database somewhere, actually along with their tone of voice guidelines, so that they could go in and make changes to the tone of voice or any information about themselves. And then it would dynamically update in the AI agent. But for the purpose of this, I just went ahead and I hard coded this in. So I have the topic, I have about the author, and that's really it, right? And I just said, do not use Markdown formatting in your outputs, plain text only, because Markdown doesn't show up in LinkedIn. And so basically the agent's job is to take the topic, call Perplexity to do the research, take that research and the topic, and then write a high converting LinkedIn post. And that's just going to store it back inside of Google Sheets. So now that we have this, let me show you how to set up OpenRouter. And like I said, before I had this as OpenAI, Perplexity, and Claude, but then that was going to require you to have 3 different accounts and 3 different billings set up. And I figured that most people didn't want to do this. But again, what's great is OpenRouter lets you do this all in one place. So for the chat model first, you can just go ahead and click the plus. You can type in OpenRouter for the chat model, which is right here, and this will connect up. You can basically go ahead and select which model you want to use. And I'm just using 4.1 mini for this. Now, to create your OpenRouter account, it's super, super easy. Just come into the credentials and click Create New Credential. And all you need is an API key. So come to openrouter.ai. I'll leave a link in the description where you can sign up. And if you come into your little profile here and you just go to Keys, you can click Create API Key. And we can just say, hello, hello. Cool, and click create, and now you have a brand new API key all ready to go. And you're just going to copy this. We're going to paste this in, and we'll just say hello, hello, just for now, just so we can match it, and go ahead and click save. Basically, you've connected to OpenRouter. The only thing you want to make sure that you have, of course, is you want to make sure that you have credits set up in your account. You'll need to connect some billing, but it shouldn't be that big a deal. These models are really, really cheap to run, and they're only going to get cheaper. So like I said, just going to delete this because I already had it set up, but this is the brains of your operation. This is making all the decisions. And so there are a couple things you can do, like a 4.1 mini works great for this because this is really, really simple. But if you do have more complex tasks, actually GPT 3.0 is like the official kind of like deep thinking model or critical thinking model that'll actually like perform complex tasks a little bit better for you. But for this is really simple. We don't need that complex of a task. So unfortunately, OpenRouter doesn't have an OpenRouter tool inside of N8N. And so, like I said, the model is the brains of the operation. The tools are basically the functions it's performing. But you can make an HTTP request. And if you're going to get into automation, understanding how to make HTTP requests is one of the best things you can spend your time learning how to do. They can seem really confusing at first, and there will always be nuance because every single platform basically has a different structure that it wants you to use, but they do follow some similar patterns. And typically, really good platforms like OpenRouter will have good documentation. That's like the key, right? So we can come into here and we can just go into OpenRouter and I click Docs. And if we come down here, you can basically see that we have this API reference down here. And there's just a couple things that I want to do. And so if you come down to the API section, what we want to do is create a chat completion, right? So this is where we're going to be going, is openrouter.ai, yada, 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 /chat/completions. And start getting used to looking at things like this. So this is what your request should look like. And then this is what the response should look like coming back from the model, right? So basically, like if we're saying like, hey, Perplexity, what is the meaning of life? It's going to return something that looks like this, right? The meaning of life is a complex and subjective question. So this is the question, and then this is the response, right? So this is just like you're typing into ChatGPT, right? And then this is the response it's giving to you. What's cool is that you can actually use these curl requests to set up your HTTP requests really simply. So I can just go ahead and click copy here. And if I wanted to, I can come into the tool and I can click HTTP requests, click import curl, and just paste this directly in. And now already we've basically connected to the right endpoint here. We can see ChatGPT or OpenRouter/chat/completions, what we were just looking at. We basically have where to put in our API key, which would be right here. Then this is the body to make the call. Now, this is where we had to change things up a little bit. And I will tell you the reason for this. The reason we did this is because I wanted the AI agent to make decisions for us. Because I wanted the AI agent to actually create the question for Perplexity. So if we come back into this HTTP request and we come into the body here, you can see here where it says content. And content is basically the question that we're asking. And now we actually need this to be dynamic because the question that we're asking is going to change every time we have a new topic. And we don't want to have to come back in here and update this and hard code this in every single time, right? So what's the use of having an automation if I have to come in here and type in, okay, like OpenAI just got $100 million investment, right? Like that seems silly, or it kind of defeats the purpose. So we want the AI agent to be able to decide the question for Perplexity research. And then from there, we actually want to pass the prompt to Anthropic to do the writing. Again, we don't want to have to do that manually. So we just changed these HTTP requests around a little bit. First thing I did for security reasons is I set up a header authentication. So the way you do this, and actually let me just go back into the generic one. And so the way you do this is if you come back in here, you can see here, we have this header request and it says authorization, and then it says bearer space, right? So just remember this, capital A for authorization, and then bearer space, and then your API. So I'm actually going to turn this off. But what you do here is you come into authentication, you can come into generic credential type, and then you can go in here and you can select header auth because this is the same as the headers. From here, I'm going to go to create new credential. And so remember what we just saw. So first thing for the name, we actually want to put authorization. And then for the value, we just saw we want to type, and I'm going to change this to expression so you can actually see it. So we type bearer space, and then this is where you come back to Open Router, you copy your API key, and you paste in your API key there. And then you would type in like Open Router and whatever the date is, right? And now you have your new header all set up, all ready to go. And what's cool about this, instead of having to hard code your API in every time, now I can just come in here and I can actually select my Open Router account every single time without having to type it in. And if I hand this off to a client or if I hand this off to you guys, my API key doesn't get exposed. And so everything's a lot more secure. That's one thing we changed. The second thing we changed is we actually reorganized how we made this request. So before we were making this request using the JSON, like we saw, again, this matched this, right? With the model and the role and the content. We just changed this around a little bit to using the specific fields below. And I actually have to work with ChatGPT to figure out exactly how to do this, but we got this working. And I'll show you why we did this. The fields are going to be named almost the same. So here, this is model, and this is where we put in the model. And in our case, it's perplexity/sonar. These do have specific names. So let me show you where to find these. If I come back into Open Router and I come over to models up top here, now we have a list of all of the models. So if I know that I want to use Perplexity, I can just type in perplex, and I want to use sonar. And you can see here, if I go to copy, we can see this perplexity/sonar. And you would just copy this because that's the actual name that you need to use with Open Router. Same thing goes for Claude Sonnet. I know I want to use Claude Sonnet. You can see Claude 4 Sonnet. And the same thing here, it's actually Anthropic/Claude-Sonnet-4, right? So again, there's like very specific ways you need to call these tools, and getting comfortable figuring out how to find this information is going to be one of the things that makes you successful as someone interested in AI and automation. So similar to how this request was set up, we have the value for the model perplexity/sonar. We have the message is user. Again, we can come back here. Let me just go back so you can see here. We have the role here as user. And then the biggest reason we did this is for content, right? We have this content field. The reason we did this is before, it's just like this, and we can hard code this value in. But what's actually even cooler is if you just click these stars right here, this says defined automatically by the agent, right? So now what's happening is the AI agent is actually determining the message that we send to Perplexity to do the research. And that's why this is so powerful, because now we don't have to do this ourselves every time. The other thing to be really clear about is this description, the name of these tools. So here where it says Perplexity Research and here where it says Anthropic Tool, as well as this description, are actually really important, because this is what tells the AI agent what the tool actually does, right? So in our AI agent prompt, I said, call the Perplexity tool to do research. So we want to make sure that the agent knows that this is the Perplexity research tool, right? So it says, call this tool to research topics using Perplexity. So it's super clear exactly what it does. And then I literally just named the tool Perplexity Research so that there is no confusion with the agent. And then from there, what I did is I just went ahead and you duplicate this node because it's basically the same. The only thing that changes is we just now come down here and you can see we've changed the model to that Anthropic/Claude-Sonnet-4, and then everything else is the same, right? We have the user value for the message, and then again, the actual value of the prompt for Claude is being defined by the agent. So its job is to take the topic and the research and automatically package this up into a nice prompt for Claude to do our writing. So this is how AI agents work. And from there, it's just going to write the post and it's going to store it inside of Google Sheet. So now that you understand how this is working, I'm just going to go ahead and run this end to end. So remember, the first thing you do is you come into the set topics node. And if you really wanted, you could have a Google Sheet with a whole bunch of topics or whatever, and you could pull in from there. But again, for the purpose of this, I'm just showing you we're hard coding in a topic today, right? So we just set the topic. NVIDIA announced a staggering $100 billion investment into OpenAI, which is crazy. I said 100 million earlier because 100 billion seemed crazy, but I guess it's 100 billion. That's nuts. So I'm going to click execute workflow. It's getting our topic. After that, it's calling Perplexity to perform the research for us. Then it's going back here to identify what we want it to do next. And then it's going to pass the research and the topic over here to the Anthropic tool to actually have Claude write our LinkedIn post for us. And again, this is why agents are powerful, because they can make actions and they can make choices for us without us having to do anything. And then from there, it's basically just grabbing that prompt, it's figuring out what we want to do with it, and it's passing this all over to Google Sheets. And all we're doing here is we're just adding a Google Sheets node. We're setting this up with append row. We're going to our documents. I just called this LinkedIn research and selected the sheet. And then from there, I'm literally just dragging the output from the AI agent into this little post column. And if I come over into here and I come over into new post, you can see here, I'm sitting in a client call and my friend said 100 billion. That's insane. I almost cried laughing. Turns out NVIDIA isn't just selling chips. They're leasing them to OpenAI to power massive data centers. OpenAI pays NVIDIA in cash, creating a circular money loop. So this is like a really cool, interesting story, right? It has this nice LinkedIn style format, short sentences, lots of line breaks, and you can go ahead and you can make edits to this however you want. You can copy and paste this directly over to LinkedIn. You can even set up a separate automation to go through and post automatically for you. But I just wanted to show you today how this AI agent is working. So if you found this video helpful, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want to see how I automated LinkedIn using just my voice, check out this video up here. I'll see you over there.